Welcome to another Q&A. Thank you for leaving me questions. I've picked out some to answer. I apologise if your question didn't make it in the video, but you can leave any unanswered questions in the comments and I'll try and answer as best I can. Reason basically is Zebcad Clay is a terrible screen name. Now and again, it was my first one I had, but yeah, No Limits Wrestling is the show overall, and therefore it's easier for people to remember. Thinking back, I'd probably say NLW versus NWO at WrestleMania 2, the elimination match. The Iron Man between Punk and Styles at Havoc, Hell in a Cell, AJ versus The Undertaker, any of the Royal Rumbles or the Chamber matches, basically any match that took a while to make, and I can definitely say for sure that at WrestleMania 3, that has some of my favourite matches on it, so look out for that. Right now, favourite wrestlers, Seth Rollins, definitely, AJ Styles, Jeff Hardy, for nostalgia reasons, Daniel Bryan, Kenny Omega in New Japan, as well as Hiromu Takahashi, and Sonata's actually really good as well. I think he's underrated. And Ishii as well. I'm surprised that they didn't push him more in New Japan, but there you go. And Brian Cage as well. He's been a beast on Impact, and he's someone you should look out for. I used to animate constantly, but recently I've found myself, maybe I animate twice a week, but then again, that's for future episodes, so it's not coming out as frequently. Before it could be like double that, so just to give myself time to put out a video each week, and, you know, I try and stay a few weeks ahead of schedule, so I'm probably animating before around 4 days a week, and then leaving myself a day to animate maybe, but, you know, it's my main hobby, so I enjoy it, so it's worth putting the time in. Well, I'm off to university soon, which is the main reason that I need to focus on that rather than NLW. I thought about ending it altogether, but to be honest, you know, I really enjoy making it, so it will just come out less often. I'm thinking a hiatus of, you know, 3 months after September, which is when WrestleMania 3 is scheduled to finish, and then come back, release episodes maybe once a month, every 2 weeks, and there'll be more info nearer the time, but I hope to fill the gap with more interesting videos like maybe collections behind the scenes and, I don't know, reviews, whatever you want, really. It can be a pain, but I've been doing it for so long that maybe I'm used to it now. It's time consuming, but I think it's worth it when it's edited together. It looks better than the PicFed to me personally, but, you know, that's just personal preference. But as for behind the scenes, I'll hopefully get another one done after WrestleMania 3, so if you wanted to know how to set things up, edit things, write shows, things like that, I'll show it in the behind the scenes that I'll do later. But I have done a couple before, but maybe I'll do another one just to update people. Well, I'll look at who I've got, who hasn't really interacted or faced each other either in real life or in my show, and go with that, because the main thing about writing for NLW is to make sure that, you know, you won't see this match happen in real life, like Brock Lesnar versus Shinsuke Nakamura. I mean, it could happen in future, but at the moment it's looking unlikely. Like, I'm not going to do Reigns versus Lesnar in NLW. I'm more likely to pair Reigns with Angle, for example, or someone fresh. Basically, it keeps the show interesting, and it's something that you're not going to see in any other stop motion, any other promotion in the real world. Some goals, I guess, in terms of the channel, to branch off and have a variety of new videos to fill the gaps between uploads of episodes. I'll still have the details, but a few ideas, you know, a PicFed exclusive show. What I was thinking about was having like an on-the-road series where it would fill in gaps of storylines. Also, I was thinking of perhaps making a show basically for you, where you would send me matches and I would put it together in sort of like a compilation of different styles to highlight channels on the rise. NLW Classics, where I'd re-upload and edit together old episodes and things like that. Reviews for wrestling shows, but I don't know how many of you really care about my opinion, to be honest. But if there's any ideas that you like there or any you want to add, you know, I'll be open to considering them. It's difficult because I animate so far ahead of time to work with others. Truth is, though, never been asked. It's, I guess I'm clearly not popular enough, but I'd love to commentate on someone else's PicFed, like a one-off. I met MDT, maybe, I don't know. They don't have any idea who I am, so that's not going to happen. But anybody with enough views who can bring presence to my show and can bring more eyes to my show, then I'll be welcome to work with anybody for, you know, I'd sell out, basically. If I were to put out an hour-long video, I feel like people would just skip through it. Keeping it in parts this way means people are more likely to watch the whole thing and really appreciate it. So far, WrestleMania 3 is 2 hours long, and I've only got to like halfway through part 4 of 8. So you can just imagine that's probably going to be like 4 hours then. Yeah, people, I don't think they're going to watch a whole show for, let alone 30 minutes, which is what I do now, and then condense that, or rather extend it to 3 hours or something like that. I don't think people would have the time to sit down and watch the whole thing. So having it in parts means people are more engaged with it, I think, and it means I can get videos out more regularly. My favourite show, it hasn't even been released yet. It's WrestleMania 3, no doubt. It's the best show I've ever done. I know I keep plugging it, but it is my favourite, and maybe it would have been a good way to end things, but, you know, I like doing it, so I'll keep it going. Past shows, I really like episode 59, which again, I'm about to put out as well, but if you go back and look, two of my favourite episodes are episode 13. I feel like there was a lot going for it in terms of story progression and new characters being brought in after the Royal Rumble. Same with episode 56 and 48 for the same reasons. Going back as well, Metal episode 23, I had an angle on that show where I had the NWO hunting down the Sandman to get more championship gold, the hardcore title. So they were going across town to like the video game store, to a bar, which was fun to watch back, as stupid as it was. Fantasy booking really was the main reason I got into it. Seeing also Loser Kings, Steve-O, all the old stop motion channels, they gave me inspiration to start. And now it's grown to what you see now. But yeah, I used to do storylines. I used to do fantasy booking for pay-per-views using my figures. This is when I was like 7 or 8, and they're terrible now that you look back. Like, I had Bobby Lashley versus John Cena basically happening every year, but it was a start, and using that, transforming it into what NLW is now, is my main inspiration. I thought I'd be done with it at WrestleMania 3, to be honest. I was bummed out. I felt like I peaked in terms of views and interest, but I don't know, I stopped for about a month and realised it's probably what made me happy. I sort of realised that even if no one watches it, just making the damn thing will make me sane. So any ideas on how to expand the channel and get more eyes on it would be appreciated, because maybe it has stilted a little bit, but perhaps that's because I put out so much content. Maybe if I scale it back, interest will peak again, I don't know. But as long as some people enjoy it, maybe I'm just being egotistical and ungrateful. I hope I don't come across as that, because I'm really appreciative for the people who do watch. No limits, anything is possible. Match-wise, talent-wise, you know, I didn't really have any other good ideas, to be fair, other than Extreme Figure Wrestling when I was first planning things out, but NLW turned out to be a better naming overall. I personally prefer stop motion, but I have to say that Stan and the Pick Feds has grown so much recently, and a lot of them I see are more story-driven, which is really good. My advice, though, if you're starting out, be patient. A good show and a big audience isn't going to come in a day. Practice with poses for pick fed as well as camera angles, and that goes to the same with stop motion. Think about the movement of every limb on the figure. Good lighting, that's the key. Good lighting is essential, because if you've got a dimly lit show, even as good as it is, it's going to look cheap and lazy. Have a good background. I know mine's not the best, but it's better than it was. The extreme sets are good, but even just black poster board will do, in my opinion, to make a good show. I may release a video in future to help. I've done a couple of behind the scenes, and I may do one in future, but patience, lighting, poses, that's key. I tried not to set expectations too high, but honestly, it was the best match I've ever seen. Highlights don't do it justice. Watch it immediately. It's just an hour and 4 minutes of... It's just incredible how they managed to top themselves. And I've been watching New Japan regularly since Wrestle Kingdom 11, their first match, and no one is overrating it when they tell you it is the best company in the world right now. I strongly recommend signing up to it. It's only around £7 for the UK and $8 the US a month, so if you sign up at the start of July, then you'll only get billed for July and you won't be billed for the end of June. So start at the beginning of July if you're going to get into it, because they've got an amazing show lined up for the San Francisco show for the G1 special, and then the G1. That alone is going to be great, because there may be some of you who don't watch it, but trust me, it's incredible. Top 3 dream matches for me: AJ Styles versus Shawn Michaels at Heatwave, Stone Cold Steve Austin versus CM Punk at WrestleMania 3, which I'm about to do, and Kurt Angle versus Daniel Bryan are my personal favourites. See, this used to be a problem for me, but I think it's fine now. I don't get the fuss. I've updated some of the figures for after WrestleMania 3, like I've done a Wrestle Kingdom 12 attire for Cody, made a new Pentagon, and bought a new Seth Rollins, to name a few. But yeah, it's just monetarily, I don't see the point in having 10 different Seth Rollins or 10 different Triple H's. If the figure works and I can use it, I often won't buy new figures unless it's a wrestler I haven't got yet, or maybe it's an elite that works better than a basic, like my Kevin Owens I updated because the basic was becoming impossible to use. But other than that, I don't see the point of updating figures. As long as the story's there, I think it's fine. I'm not entirely into that kind of thing, but I would like to maybe take elements of DC and Marvel Comics and have wrestler spin-offs, perhaps, like with Broken Matt Hardy, and do some stories like that, more like supernatural kind of things. I'm going to guess around 200 now, but I may do a collection video or room tour for after WrestleMania 3, if anyone's interested. That seems to be the total at the moment, at least the figures at work. The hardcore title, purely because it was different, it was unique, you had the lower card guys who had something to fight for, which they could use in WWE at the moment, and the WCW Cruiserweight title for how ahead of its time it was, that style of wrestling back in 1996, and seeing elements of that here today in the present day. Not what it became in 2000 or in the WWE version, which was way watered down. I know what you mean about the bad background. It's better now that I've taped up and blacked out some scruffiness in it, but you're only going to be able to see that after WrestleMania 3. I made a lot of changes to the arena. I'll show you the improvements I made to it at a later date, but I think the Extreme sets is too large for the stage, and also with shipping to the UK, I think it'd be too expensive. I thought about getting one backstage, but I don't think I'd use it enough to warrant the money. I used to have a habit of focusing on one women's feud at a time, but that's only because the women's roster at the time was small. I've grown it now, as you can see with the Torment Tour women's tournament. Partly with the rosters becoming so out of control, I think it's better. I've got Emma versus Paige, Sasha versus Lita, and Bliss versus Charlotte happening simultaneously, but hopefully after WrestleMania 3, once the rosters are brought under control, I can cut the dead weight and maybe give more of a focus to the women's division, because I would like to, it's just that the figures are difficult to animate with, which is why a lot of matches aren't as long as the men's matches. That's the only reason. 17 is the best, no question. Close second would have to be 19. But do you know what? The only recent WrestleMania that I can think of off the top of my head that came close to matching, you know, the sort of grandeur that WrestleMania built up, probably 31. That was a really good one. I mean, if anything, nowadays I do the opposite of what they do and it seems to work. But the exception being NXT, which has an amazing run between probably August last year to up until now. I will take inspiration from a couple of things they do. They do some good stuff, obviously, but you know, it's different eras like ECW in 96, maybe WCW in 97, independent stuff, anything that works, you can tweak for your own show and change some elements. So there will be a couple of things that I take inspiration from, some key angles from the Attitude Era, things like that. Neville, please come back. I had a dream, I said this on Twitter, I had a dream where Neville's music hit, place went ballistic, record scratch, Dolph Ziggler comes out, and I hate Dolph Ziggler now because of that. Yeah, so I really hope Neville returns to wrestling full stop. I don't care if he's in WWE or not, I just want him to wrestle again. CM Punk would be a second, but I'm doubtful that'll ever happen, even on an independent level. Favourite custom figure I've got is the Kenny Omega, which was made by TSM Customs. I tried making one myself and failed miserably. I have made myself a new Pentagon Jr. figure, which is my favourite that I've made, and a Jushin Liger custom that I'm not going to show here, I don't have the time, but I will possibly show you on Instagram if, you know, you want to see it. Truth is, I'm not anything special, and I think that's the key. Enjoy what you do, practice and you will improve. You'll look at my earliest videos and you'll see how far I've come. Even videos as far as last year, you'll see the improvement, to me at least. So overall, I'm nothing special and neither are any of you, which sounds like terrible advice, but the point I'm trying to make is that anyone who wants to do it can do it if they put their mind to it and keep patient and will win to practice, take on advice, and yeah, if you really want to do it, just go ahead and do it. Don't care what anyone says, unless it's constructive feedback. In that case, you know, do care what they say. But at the end of the day, if you enjoy it, just do it. So I've been to a few. The first one I ever went to was a Raw in Birmingham in 2012. I went to a live event in 2013. That was kind of sucky. Daniel Bryan was advertised and they gave us the big show instead. So needless to say, the place was happy, and that was in 2013. So you can imagine. I went to an Impact Wrestling taping in 2015 in London. I went to NXT TakeOver London. I did the entire week for SummerSlam. I went to Brooklyn. That was fun. Got to meet a couple of people from WWE. And then I did WrestleMania week for the first time ever. And it's literally the best thing I've ever done. Did all the WWE events with WrestleMania. And I also went to The Crash. I went to Rev Pro. I did the WrestleCon Super Show. Got to see Kenny Omega live. And honestly, the weirdest thing about being there is just seeing all the wrestlers out and about. They're amongst you. And it's really strange because you feel like you should say something, but at the end of the day, they're just strangers to you. So you probably shouldn't. But the freakiest thing for me was seeing Will Ospreay in the check-in line. He was on the same plane as I was going over there, which was so freaky. But obviously, bothering wrestlers at the airport is a dick move, so don't do that. I didn't. But yeah, it was costly, but definitely worth it, for a one-off at least. For your first show, in my opinion, introduce your key characters, keep to a maximum of 3 matches, simple story, small roster. If you stump for ideas, a tournament can be a good place to start when introducing your roster and deciding what matches to make. You can check out advice for pick fed in stop motion on the WF Figs website. I think they've got a thread of tips for starting shows, and it gives you like a list of do's and don'ts, lighting, etc. and things like that. So that'll help. Fantasy matches are good that you can't see anywhere else. And do take inspiration from other real life companies or other YouTubers, and you know, you can tweak some stuff. Don't outright steal ideas, but it's good to get inspiration from seeing what other people do and seeing what works and what doesn't, and then applying that to your own show. WrestleMania 35 card, off the top of my head, maybe Daniel Bryan versus Shinsuke Nakamura, Lesnar versus Strowman or Lashley, perhaps, and just get the title off of him. AJ versus Andrade would be good. Charlotte Ronda. Becky Lynch versus Asuka. I just want Becky Lynch to get a push eventually, please. A heel Roman Reigns against maybe Finn Balor or Seth Rollins. Drew McIntyre in a high-profile position. New Day versus Sanity in a 6-man. That could be good. But truth is, I have no idea. So I have no right to complain when they put the match card out. I mean, it's easy for a fan to just complain, but truth is, don't really watch it week to week, so I can't really get a vibe of where they're heading with things, but yeah. As for games, I'm not really into games or superhero movies. Last game I played properly was GTA 5, and that was a couple of years ago, and I haven't played a WWE game since 2014, so it's not really my thing. I think Seth could have had a longer run with the IC title and built it up more, but the shock value of it was kind of what made it work in a way. Hopefully if Seth moves on to the world title scene and this IC title run for Dolph is more of a vehicle to push Drew McIntyre than anything else, that's my hope anyway. And as for a reboot, there will be a reboot of sorts after WrestleMania 3 in terms of format, roster and schedule, but you'll find out more details about that nearer the time. So that's it for the Q&A. I apologise if your question didn't get answered in this video, but feel free to leave it in the comments and I'll try and get back to you on that. Here's my Twitter, here's my Instagram. This is the website. On that, you'll see the schedule, you'll see the whole roster, who the champions are, past histories of NLW, all of that. This is the person that makes my music. This is the person that's done a couple of my logos, including the NLW logo and the metal logo. Apart from that, I don't say this enough, but thank you for watching. It's kind of been difficult for me to sort of wind it down, and it has gotten kind of to a point where I feel like I did peak, and, you know, you start to doubt yourself and things like that. But honestly, I don't want to end things on a downer, so thank you for watching, and I'll see you later.